Good evening, everybody. This is Mike with Block Galleries. Hey, we are about 30 days in to our acquisition of the Casino Legends Hall of Fame, and I got to say, I've had so much activity on this acquisition in the last month. It's been like a whirlwind. I don't think there's been, days where we didn't work at least 14 to 18-hour days, just trying to put the whole collection into a position where we can kind of explain it. And so for those of you that are just tuning into the to this video, it's gonna be a little longer video. We really have a really good picture of kind of what we've got, sort of the direction we're going. And I wanted to take this opportunity. I put a lot of photos together. We are currently, we set up a YouTube video channel. So basically, a lot of the videos that we're doing of different items in the museum, some wrap tours, are all being posted pretty much daily on YouTube. So it's under Block Galleries. We'll be sharing that link to a lot of folks. The reason that I wanted to get on this video is there's a ton of photos that we've taken in addition to the videos. We've gotten a lot of documentation from Steve Cutler, who's just amazing guy. He, boy, if you even had 10% of the stories that he told me, over the last month, it's been actually the last few months, because we started this process about 45 days before we closed. So really, as a background, the Casino Legends Hall of Fame was in the Tropicana. Steve Cutler was an industry veteran. He worked in many properties, from floor manager, from dealer, to host, to management. Really a 40-year career in hospitality management, and also just the sheer amount of knowledge that he has about the casino industry is pretty mind-numbing. And so you'll see in some of these videos where I'm asking him questions for a non-industry insider, a person that really didn't grow up around casinos. I think at times he kind of got frustrated with me because, I should kind of know this stuff. But I mean, he'll forget more in a month than I'll probably ever know about the casino industry. So anyway, to just talk a little bit about the acquisition, Steve's been a client for a few years. As most of you know, our core focus at Block Galleries, we do a lot of paper media, rare currency, collectibles, just anything that has to do with currency. Has been our primary focus for many years. Started my career in the art business. Actually, I worked with a printmaker at the University of Morehead State University up in Minnesota. And so early in my career, I worked with printmakers and ultimately started an art business right out of college, which was called the Art Connection. And it was working with original artists. And we had kind of a consignment gallery. And this is a long time ago. So this was in the early 90s, before the internet really had taken off. And, I probably missed that by a few years. If I would have waited a few years after, it would have been a much more interesting business. But ultimately went on to do that business for several years, and then ultimately got into technology and real estate and had a totally different career. And later in my career, I've always been interested in collectibles, and I've always dabbled in them. But about 5 years ago, really started to do collectibles as a side business, and now it's really my full-time business. So super excited about it. A lot of this really feels like I'm going back 30 years in my career to things that I did, in my early 20s with a lot of photographers and artists, and just a whole bunch of items that are kind of indescribable. So the goal of this video, I've taken a lot of photos, gathered a lot of provenance, gathered a lot of information. I thought it would just be easier for me to kind of go through a slideshow and to do that in a little longer video where I can talk a little bit more about the collection and I can talk a little bit more about the value, because we're going to be breaking the collection up into several different aspects. One is going to be, we've already started to make some of the items available on our eBay store. So you can see a link in our YouTube video to some of those items. Things like casino chips, some of the kind of the easier to understand things like photography will probably be in that format. But to be honest with you, so many of these items are really orientated towards museum level provenance, and they're going to really fall into much higher end auction houses. And so some of those opportunities would be things like Julian's or Heritage or Sotheby's or others. And so right now, there are some items in the collection that are being authenticated. The great news about buying a complete museum with all of the intellectual property rights and publishing rights, the provenance is really well documented. So it's not like you're buying a collection kind of from an individual and then you're trying to track down the provenance. Most of these items have got very well documented provenance. And because Steve, bless his soul, is still kicking, he has battled cancer for many years, and I hope that he battles it for 20 or 30 more and does not leave us, because we have a lot of work to do. Part of this will be establishing, I believe, really an online museum. Some of these items are not monetarily important, but they're culturally important. So as curators, as people that have worked in collectibles and antiques and rarities, we also want to be preserving as much as we can. We want to be able to encapsulate that information, gather that documentation, not for this generation, but for many generations down the road. A big part of what you learn when you're doing this business, you have so many people that are older, and many of them leave every year. They pass away. They're in their 80s or 90s. Several friends this year have died. A friend died today. And so part of that is we're always in this mad panic rush to get as much information as we can. The beauty of this modern world with AI and with the ability to photo and video and collaborate and use social media and other platforms is that this will be really the last generation that we will not be able to have everything documented. So many of us that are historians, I'm sort of a part-time historian. I do oral histories. I'm working on a couple books. God knows if I'll ever finish those. Is really this mad race to gather the information we can with live sources, and so that in the future, researchers and people that are really doing a lot of work in these areas are going to be able to take our work and to be able to fulfill a much broader process. Now, of course, my video is going to be a little bit goofy here. So I'm going to start off by just saying that the first part of this video is going to really be photo based. It's going to be the documentation over a 4-day period. It was a long 4 days with Steve because he never left my side for about 12 to 14 hours. And I can't believe his work ethic, but it is absolutely phenomenal. And so what you're looking at here is, I would say, is one of the 2 or 3 big showpieces of this collection. It's the Bob Stupak statue that was at the base of the Stratosphere. And for many of you that are a little older than me, probably you remember Bob Stupak, and he was Mr. Las Vegas. He kind of was a pioneer. He was like a famous gambler, but he also was a pioneer marketer. And so he would send these promotions to people. Would be like, we'll give you $1,000 to come to Vegas. It won't cost you anything. And so he pioneered this idea of comps for the ordinary people, for the ordinary person. He had a board game, just very interesting. So the showpiece here, and what you're looking at, is really a photo of the statue that was in the museum, and it was. We have heard it is gold plated. Now there's some, I don't know if urban lore or regular lore. We're going to do some testing. We've got an assayer that's going to do some core testing on the statue, because we've heard there are about 4 pounds of gold in the statue. If that's true, that's a pretty valuable statue. But culturally, it's a very valuable statue because this was a part of Las Vegas history. This will be part of the sale. We hope this would go to a museum or to a private collector that would really cherish and maintain it, but it's in fantastic condition. The museum really ran from 1999 to 2006. And after that, the Tropicana was doing remodel, or they sold, or, things change. And so what ultimately happened is they were looking at relocating this museum to Wayne Newton's ranch at Shenandoah. Wayne Newton had actually gone bankrupt, and so the property and a lot of the assets were held by a banker from Texas. And the banker approached Steve and his wife about doing a museum at Shenandoah. That project they worked on for about 3 years, ultimately didn't happen. And we'll just put it this way, they didn't part on great terms. But ultimately, they did open and it closed, and they didn't bring the museum in, which was kind of dumb. But in essence, Steve was pretty bitter about it. And I'm saying that in a pejorative sense. He's not a real bitter guy, but he was pretty disappointed. And he boxed the collection, and it was a time capsule for 20 years. The storage locker was real dusty. These were very, very well packed. Everything was in Nevada. When we were unpacking this, things were brand new. A lot of the more valuable items were really kept in his home. He has a beautiful home in the old part of Las Vegas. He's a really successful guy. So you go through 2 sets of security, and there's other casino CEOs that are his neighbors. He's a successful guy. And so this was really the end of his collection. He has been battling health problems, and he did not want to kind of piece this out. He wanted to find a good partner that understood the importance of the collection, also preserving, documenting, and not just fire sailing the whole thing off and dismembering it. And that's not our intent. Our intent is really to be placing a lot of these items with collectors and institutions, if we can, that will really be able to preserve this history, because a lot of this goes back to the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, that early golden age of Las Vegas and of Nevada and of gaming that, I've seen a lot of movies about, like Casino and, The Godfather, and just all these different movies that have, talked about what it was like. What's amazing about this collection is we get to live a big part of this through these objects. So Bob Stupak is I'm just going to go through the photo slides now. Another, really unbelievable part of this collection is the Sahara. It was a prototype set of Baccarat chips. As most of you guys have probably seen James Bond and a lot of those James Bond films in Casino Royale and in Monte Carlo, they had the square, big Baccarat chips, right? They were gambling. And so those are more prevalent in Europe, but they never really took off in the United States. Now, this prototype set, from what I understand, they did make several of these tiles, these plaques, but Steve was able to, and the museum was able to acquire the number 1 serial number. So this is what would be called, and Steve, these are, kind of the museum called this the Holy Grail, serial number 1 of the Sahara Casino, legendary casino, Baccarat, set number 1 prototype. It's a 6-figure set. We've had offers on it that we've turned down. It's just, this is really an unbelievable piece of casino, memorabilia. And so, again, there will be people that have different serials on this, but this one, I believe, came from either the president or the owner of the Sahara. Funny thing, short story, sidebar. I used to work early in my technology career back in the early 90s, middle 90s. My former boss was the former president of the Sahara Casino. He was the youngest president and got into a bit of trouble, but he would bring us to Vegas on trade shows, and he was a riot. So that was really an interesting thing that I found as a part of this deal. I saw those Sahara Casino chips. So, get another view of these. Now, the chip collection is pretty stunning. We threw out a few chips on offer, and they all sold pretty quickly. So we kind of like took a step back and we said, okay, there's 16,000 plus chips. A lot of these are really rare. We're still kind of coming up to speed and doing a lot of research, but there's going to be some amazing opportunities for collectors and dealers to acquire a lot of these chips. The chips are going to get sold. Steve has never really sold a lot of his chips. Once a year, he does the collectible show, and we will be at the Las Vegas collectible show. I think it's on the 14th and 15th. If I'm not mistaken, I will have to look that up. But in Las Vegas, it's the casino. It's the Coins and Token Show, and we've joined that organization. We hope to be involved, and we will be there, and we will have a lot of chips with us. So we're looking to sell the chips. This is going to be, we're going to do different variations. We'll sell them one at a time. We're going to sell groups, sets. There's a whole lot of commemorative chips. And so we're kind of putting those all together. Some of them may be offered, just straight up for sale. Some of them may enter auctions, premium auctions. We do know that there will be a fair number of these that will need to go into a premier auction, because of the, just the level of seriousness of this collection. And so we hope to be offering some of these basically at that time. This is a California club. This is probably his most valuable individual chip. Chip is just ultra rare. About a $30,000 chip. Believe there's only 3 of them that have ever been found. This one is actually in gem mint condition. Ironically, it's funny, like we deal with grading all the time, both on the coins, the sports cards, and also the currency with PMG and PCGS, PSA. What's really weird to me is there is no grading. Nobody grades casino chips, which just seems odd. I think if I was 20 years younger and probably a little bit more, had a little bit more chutzpah, I'd probably do that. I mean, it's just a great opportunity. Not like there's a lot of fakes or anything out there, but there are some idiosyncrasies in terms of condition. They're very durable. You look at coins and paper money specifically, and you just think how delicate a lot of those are, and then you get a casino chip and they're like tanks. Not like you're going to be throwing them on the ground, but these were really built to be, consumer used. So when you get them when they're uncirculated, they're pretty spectacular. So the casino properties we've been documenting, it took, 3 weeks just to literally organize the chips. And best we can tell, we're over 600 individual Nevada properties. No properties outside of Nevada. So everything is Nevada. I think we found like 2 French casino chips. I don't know. And I think we found 1 from California. But this collection is a Nevada collection. So it is pretty spectacular. This is a flamingo. These are just, a couple of, Caesar's Palace. These casino chips are typically going to be pre-2000. There are some more common chips because the museum was pretty active, had a gift shop, and, I think you could buy, collectibles there. But in terms of the actual rarities, most of these are going back to the 1940s, 30s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and really they taper, when you get into the 80s and 90s. There's a few in the 90s, but I mean, for the most part, the good stuff is always going to be in the 40s and 50s. So there's lots of that. Here's an example of the Pioneer Club. So this is Vegas Vic. It's kind of interesting. It's a iconic image. You see him on the sign on Fremont Street. But we have, for example, like the casino, Las Vegas Fabulous magazine, they had like 50 issues pre 1950 that were with Casino Vic, and then they phased them out. We've not been able to find them anywhere. We have 50 issues where he's on the cover. And I mean, these are like pristine, completely perfect magazines. But, this is a commemorative piece that was done back in 92. So, I think about 92, man, I was in college still, and I'm old now. So they're in fantastic condition. This is just one set, one example. There's 4 of these sets that we're aware of in the collection. Okay, so don't know how he procured a lot of this. What Steve told us is that when you own a museum and you're there every day, you get a lot of people that will come in and want to make donations to the casino. A lot of times they weren't even like wanting to sell stuff. They were donating them. But we have an extensive collection of the El Rancho casino fire chips. And these are blocks. These are actual from racks, where the purple one on the right, or actually the gray one in the middle, is the $100 chip. The left one is a 25, and then the 5. Those are the windmill. These are chips pre-1960 because El Rancho burned in 60, was never rebuilt. It's still an empty lot. And so you have that, and some of these, just a few chips have gone for, hundreds of dollars, and we've got some really amazing stacks of them. This has got to be one of the most interesting things in the last 20 years that I can probably ever remember seeing. I didn't know this, but chips are made out of, the early chips in the 20s and 30s were made out of clay. And one of the ways that they would destroy them is they would throw them in the lake. So in Lake Tahoe, they decided to destroy a whole bunch of bank club chips, which is why there's probably not a lot of them out there. So what did they do in the 1930s or 40s or whenever they did? They just went out there, probably on a boat, and they dumped them in the lake. Well, fast forward 50 years, 60, 70 years later, some enterprising person or people decided to do an expedition. They got scuba gear. They found some of the chips on the bottom of the lake. I think we're the only ones that got them, but there is a bag of bank club casino chips from Reno that are literally still in the mud. They're not wet, mind you, but they still have all the stuff on them. Pretty amazing. I'm going to be jumping around because the photos just are what they are and they just kind of go where they go. But thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of photos. We do not even understand how many we have because so much of what we acquired are negatives that we own the rights to. So we haven't had the time or the inclination to get the light boxes out and start to look at what we own. But the museum did acquire the Las Vegas Journal, and I believe one of the defunct newspapers, all the intellectual rights, all the photo rights. And in addition to that, there was a whole bunch of archives with signed photos. Over the years, the casino museum acquired lots of, not only just by celebrating the inductees, obviously, because I think there were 60 of them or 70 of them, but this is Liberace, where I think he may have done his famous piano drawing on that one. There's lots of those, and they're with really interesting people. There's a few that we've seen with movie stars, with mobsters that you've never seen before, and they shouldn't, and their publicists probably would have freaked the hell out if they would have even known that they were associating. So those are the kinds of things that we're still excited to discover, and we'll be posting as we find it, but this is just one of the photos that we pulled out of a box. Since nobody really smokes anymore, I don't think they do. I think they're still smoking in Vegas, which I have no idea why that's even possible. However, there is there's a collector. There's actually a collector's book on ashtrays. Never ever knew that. Kind of an interesting thing. I don't know, in 55 years, I never really thought, hey, people collect collectible ashtrays. Well, this museum collected, because the ashtrays were also the insignia. They were also time capsules. They were properties that came and went very quickly. They had beautiful designs on them. And as most people know, ashtrays chip. And so the collection And I'm thinking there's 300 to 400 ashtrays. And the museum didn't keep junk. These are all really amazing. But there are some that are one of a kind. And just the colors on them are like they literally blasted them out of a furnace yesterday. They're just beautiful. They're really good at preserving them. Excuse me, it is getting to be summer and it's getting hot. So we got a big thing of water, trying to stay hydrated. So this is Moulin Rouge, Nevada Casino. Okay, Apache. These are really rare dice. These are actually, I believe, and I'll have to get this information from Steve again, the only surviving craps dice from the original Apache Club. I mean, I can't even describe how rare that is because the Apache Club, it was the first casino that I believe that opened after legal gambling. For example, just if you found one of their Generation 1 casino chips in good condition, I mean, some of them would sell for $20,000 to $30,000. This is what we think is the only pair of dice that survived. We don't think there's any others. The condition are pretty good. I mean, this would have been from the 20s and 30s. Doesn't matter because you're not going to find another Apache